and I'm sure she's getting it from all directions. My advice, though, to Premier Danielle Smith. So Danielle Smith, I mean, she's gone against all conventional wisdom and political advice. She's defied and ignored polls, pundits, and academics that all predicted her political demise. And in dismissing those naysayers, she's found herself elected as Alberta's premier with a majority government at her disposal, albeit a reduced one. Now, the night of the election, Danielle Smith invoked the late Ralph Klein in referencing what was called his miracle on the prairie. And she wasn't drawing an unfair parallel. The similarities between the 1993 general election won by Klein and the 2023 election in Alberta are remarkable when you look at them. When Klein took the reins of the Progressive Conservative Party in the early 1990s, their party was in serious trouble. It was polling down at sometimes as low as 20% against Lawrence Decor's Liberals, and many were declaring the PCs as electorally dead in the water. The elites, of course, and the chattering classes dismissed Klein as an uneducated bumpkin who stumbled his way into the premiership and would become little more than a footnote in political history. Voters, though, they felt otherwise and gave Ralph Klein a reduced majority government on June 15th, 1993. The Alberta establishment, of course, they were aghast, but at least somewhat humbled. Now we come all the way up to 2022, and we've got the governing UCP, and they were polling as low as 22% under the leadership of Jason Kenney. That led to the end of Kenney, and among a number of things. And when Kenney was replaced by Danielle Smith, the usual establishment suspects were all but confident this would be the beginning of the end of the UCP's reign in government. There's no way a leader with such a controversial history as Smith could turn around the fortunes of a party in such trouble, right? Well, Smith proved her detractors wrong and pulled a reduced majority win from what was the most personal and negative provincial campaign in living memory. And while she may have fewer seats than the 1993 PCs did under Klein, she actually has a larger segment of popular support. I mean, Ralph Klein won 44.5% support in 1993. Smith's UCP took 52.6% of the electorate. Her opponents can no longer claim she doesn't have a mandate from Albertans. Now, if Premier Smith wants to continue down a Klein-like path, she needs to take another one of his favorite sayings to heart. Don't blink. The election might be behind Smith right now, but her opponents are far from gone. Notley's remaining as the leader of the NDP for now, which ensures the negative tone of the opposition against Smith is going to continue. Legacy media is as biased as ever against Smith, and they're going to pan every move she makes. Just the other morning, I listened to a local talk radio station begin its newscast saying Notley's NDP wins the largest opposition ever. Since when is the second place celebrated in a two-party system? A two-party system. They won't even give Smith a win in headlines when she just had a literal win. I mean, you mentioned that the NDP won the largest opposition after you mention the UCP won a majority, but not in the media environment of today. Unions, academics, and media will all oppose Smith's every move, just as they did with Klein. There's going to be people within Smith's own party, they're going to get nervous. And as her opposition to her policy starts mounting, they're going to put pressure on her. She needs to ignore her opponents and reassure her allies. Most of all, though, again, she can't blink. Klein was counseled to back down as he put Alberta's finances back in order. He was told by the experts he was moving too far, too fast. He was upsetting the apple cart, and surely he'd be punished at the polls. He didn't blink, though, and political pundits assured us he'd be punished dearly in the next election. Well, in 1997, Ralph Klein increased his majority with another 11 seats on top of that and took 51% of the popular vote. Ignore the experts, don't blink. Smith has a mandate, and she needs to pursue it. She can't succumb to the temptation to pull the political reform Band-Aid off slowly through minor incremental policy changes. For one thing, her opponents are going to go wild no matter what she does, even if they're minor changes. So you got nothing to lose in going for the big ones. Secondly, that's how Jason Kenney tried to govern, and look how well that turned out. Albertans are willing to embrace positive political changes, even if it comes to the health system and the pension plan. Smith needs to bring about these reforms quickly and to offer no quarter to her opponents in her work. Changes need to be made in the first 2 years in power so the results can be measured in the second 2 years before she faces the electorate again. She can't let the civil servants, union heads, or even her own advisors slow roll her mandate. Hesitation will be her undoing. Premier Smith isn't showing any indications of being a shrinking violet in office. I don't expect her to tiptoe around with policy. I mean, Smith's historical biggest mistake ever, though, was to crumble under strong headwinds and led the disastrous floor crossing from the Wild Rose Party to the Progressive Conservatives under Prentice in 2014. The pressure got to her back then, and she sought an escape hatch. Now, Danielle Smith has been given a second political life that nobody would have expected of her for her after that catastrophic lapse in judgment in 2014. She's clearly learned a lot since then. Let's hope, though, she's absorbed the most important lesson of all, especially when you're getting tired of swimming upstream. Don't blink.
You can become a Western Standard member for just $10 a month or $99 a year for unlimited access.